Welcome to the Rock and Roll Show podcast. We're here to share the thrill of experiencing live music together with strangers and with friends, and to get to know a little bit about our guests through their concert experiences. I'm your host, Alex Gadd, and I do this because I relate to people best, I find, when talking about music. Finding out what bands someone likes, what shows they've been to, allows us to get to know and understand one another a little bit better. And also, hey, it's just fun to swap stories about shows we've seen over the years. I'm very excited about today's conversation. My guest is Dave Schneider of the Zambonis and of The Levees. He's the co-founder and singer of the Zambonis, who have been around for over 30 years. They're a Northeastern band who play original music where all the songs are either about or related to hockey. In other words, it's hockey rock. They were just inducted into the New England Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this past weekend. I was there. It was a great show. And Dave, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure to be here.
So how did you get into music? When you were young, what inspired you to get into music?
At a very, very, very young age, I heard Rockin' Robin by the Jackson 5, Rockin' Robin.
Oh,
and I would sing it. I would sing it around the house. And then eventually that turned into The Night Chicago Died. But I would sing it and, my mother, like every mother, oh, you're so talented. But I didn't realize that I did have a talent until much later. But at a very young age, I loved those songs and I would obsess over them and I would get happy hearing them. So that's definitely how it started. I mean, that early AM radio stuff really lit a fire in me, which I never realized how important it was until this interview. That was your question. I mean, I love those songs and I would sing them all the time. And then eventually I had two older brothers and my oldest brother had Springsteen records and I hated those records. I didn't get it. I think I got a little of Focus, I don't know if you know that one.
Well, we were just talking about Hocus Pocus, the other day.
I think it was the cigar cover that got me into it. But my other brother, Keith, he came back from camp one year before I went to the same camp. And he had a cassette from an Australian counselor named Peter O'Brien, whose nickname was Obi. And somewhere I have Obi's Mix. And it had great stuff on it. Squeeze, Split Ends, early, like 79 stuff. It had all this great stuff. My Sex, a band from Australia, Computer Games. And it was just thrilling. It was great. And then I went to that camp and that was the year. Started with Kiss, The Cars, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. And then I really went hardcore to new wave, basically. And blocked out like Led Zeppelin. And then eventually realized, wait a second, Bruce Springsteen's awesome. Oh, Led Zeppelin's really good. Their drummer is better than the drummer from Boomtown Rats, And then it all sort of just caved in. And I'm a sponge for everything, just all music. And that's what we do in the Zambonis. It's a joke band anyway, so I can write any style of music and get away with it.
That is one of the things that I commented on when I was at the show on Saturday night was you really do blend in all different types of music. The subject matter is, and one of your founding members who was on stage with you said, this is music about the human condition and we just write songs about hockey, but it's really about more than that. And I love the different styles that you played in. And I've seen other bands that are thematic. And they tend to be thematic, not only about their subject matter, but also about the music that they played. And you really had a very set of musical references that you played, and it was great. I thought that was even better than just sticking with one thing.
We work really hard at our joke, And the guy that said that, Tarkin, his brother Peter, who was next to him, who I started this band with, he doesn't say much, but Peter produced most of the Nationals records, first two Interpol records, worked on Taylor Swift in the last record and Frightened Rabbit, a beautiful band from Scotland. And so it's tongue in cheek, but he's mixed a lot of Guster's records, who I love Guster, and so it helps us get away with doing things really well when you don't expect it. Oh, they're a hockey band, they're going to suck. But I surround myself with amazing players too, so that's the other part, and we record with Peter or my friend Tim. So we don't cut corners when it comes to the music or the songs.
That
So,
came across, by the way. It definitely came across as such,
hey,
and that was a joy for me to watch. That was a joy for me to experience. So you are in the Zambonis. You also have a band, the Levees, and I don't know much about them. So could you tell me a little bit about them?
the Zambonis got together in 91. We should say 33 years, but New Year's Eve, we played our first gig in 91. But we did our stuff and recorded our records, and other bands contacted, like, how come your hockey music sounds better than our non-hockey music? So Peter got busy and we became friendly with Guster. Guster took us on tour a couple times, and Adam from Guster asked me if I wanted to write some songs about being Jewish. And I said, sure. And we wrote 3 songs, and we got signed to Warner's Reprise, which is the Kinks label, which I thought my dream was done there. But that was 2005, and the record came out, and it never stops winning as a record. It's called Hanukkah Rocks. And we just played a Tiny Desk concert in December this year, in between Olivia Rodrigo and Scarface. And we're 14 million views behind Olivia Rodrigo right now, but we're doing okay.
Yeah, that's okay. That you have a lot of room there between Olivia Rodrigo's success, and you can still have success eating off the crumbs of her table.
That's right. They're good crumbs. We actually had bagels and lox at our session, so you could check it out on YouTube. Try to get
I
it.
may cut a little piece of it into this interview.
Oh, you should. It's a good one.
Is it with a C or H? I am confused. What about those N's and K's? Do you use one or two? I remember when I was back in elementary school, a Spanish kid told me that it starts with a silent J, but Julio was wrong. Or maybe he was right. Someone decide. Make up your mind. I know. Try spell check and Webster's. Is there an answer to my question? Someone please help me. Just tell me, how do you spell Hanukkah?
It's got a good,
Yeah.
both bands have the same vibe. Part of that is, I guess that's my vibe, but it's all about having fun and spreading love. And that's what we do.
And it comes across for sure. So you got into music through your family. How did you start playing music? Playing music is a leap that a lot of people want to take and don't.
Well, I was in college, and then I was out of college very quickly. But while I was in college, I started playing guitar. I started real late, and I learned Sweet Jane, but I couldn't get one of the chords. There's a quick B minor in there, and so I scrapped the B minor, but I knew 3 chords. I never took a lesson, but I don't know why I could write songs, and I could make up songs on the spot. And that goes back to singing The Night Chicago Died. I didn't realize it, but I could do something. I had no idea. So I started taking my guitar, which takes big balls, to open mics, not knowing any songs. And I would go up, it would be my turn, and I would just start getting names from people or whatever, and then I'd make up a song. And eventually I realized, oh, this is in my head. It's all going slow and I could control it. Then I come on a line or a chorus, and then I would by the end, I'd have a song, which was, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how it happened. And I kept on doing it at open mics. And as the years went on, I learned more chords, and I filled in a band called Those Melvins. And
Those Melvins, not the Melvins.
no, not the Melvins, or not Melvin, but Those Melvins, a great band from Connecticut who had a lot of fun. And I filled in, but my deal with filling in was, at the end of the show, I get to make up a song. So I still did that. And at the end of that show in Norwalk, I made up a song about someone I love named Jonathan Richman. He's a performer.
The Modern
And
Lovers.
yeah, and these two guys, and again, the song comes together, and by the end, it's a song. And these guys, those albums were good, and it happened. These two guys run up to me and go, "Hey, who wrote that song?" I'm like, "Oh, I did. I just wrote it." And they're like, "Oh, can I swear?
Yeah, of course.
You're full of shit." And I was like, "No, I just wrote it." And they're like, "Well, we love Jonathan Richman. You should come to our recording party Friday night at our house." So I was like, "Okay." And me and my roommate, Brad, go to their recording party in this beautiful, beautiful house, which was featured in Architectural Digest and everything. And there were 23 people there in the basement recording this guy, James Kacholka's record. And one of the people in there was Moby. They're beautiful girls and beautiful boys, and people hitting a microphone with a pan, which wasn't cool, but crazy. And we finished this night. We're driving out of this long driveway. And Brad says to me, "That was the worst night of my life." And I say, "Brad, that was the best night of my life." And that's where I met Peter and Tarkin, who I started the Zambonis, who have their own band called the Philistines Jr., who are one of my favorite bands ever, and really make music like nobody else. So it just, knowing them, it sort of branched my brain to come up with an idea that no one else does. And that's how the Zamboni started.
It's a great idea. And, I also played music. I started playing music when I was
Hey,
8, playing
you
guitar.
got your two tools. That's all you need there, the Gibson and the Fender.
Yeah, exactly. Those are my representative ones. I have many more in the closet. I got to start rotating them out for each interview. But I needed someone to tell me or to show me, not even tell me that it was possible. I just didn't think it was possible. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was ever going to make it. It was too hard. And so I walked away from it. And then I've spent my whole adult life chasing it and being in different cover bands and enjoying that for what it is, but always dreaming, always dreaming.
Yeah. I mean, the dream is weird because just making music is the dream. Now, having a gig like the other night is another dream. But just if you experience, even in a cover band, when you're playing, that Tom Petty song or whatever it is, you get the same feeling. It's the same feeling. It's a complete joy to just have music just sort of flow through whoever's in that room. Concerts too.
Sure. That's something that when I saw Springsteen on Broadway, he mentioned, and he really focused on that, how music, when you create it, whether it's your own creation or not, it doesn't exist. You're in a room with a bunch of strangers, and then you start playing a song and you have a communal experience in that moment. And there's no physical thing touching any of the people. It's just the music that's connecting everyone. And from Springsteen on Broadway to Springsteen in a stadium to the Zambonis at FTC the other night, it was fantastic. And it felt just the same to me.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing to, like Springsteen or Jonathan Richman or the Kinks, but we're no different. We're the same thing as them. It took me a long time to realize, not that they're better or worse than me or whatever, but when I'm in the basement with whoever and this song just pops up, and we played a song called Slow Whip, I Don't Like Hockey No More, all these new songs the other night. The brand new one we're going to play with Led Zeppelin, There Ain't No Ice. These songs just, boom, they happen. And everyone in the room goes, "Oh, wow. Oh, this is it." And it happens. The problem is it happens a lot. So you can't really capture every one and follow it through and record it. But I'm sure for Bruce too, it just happens. Jonathan Richman actually records these things and just calls them records. His new records he's making with Jerry Harrison right now, that he just goes to the studio and they play music and then they release what they've just played. There is some magic. There's definitely magic there, but he is as punk rock as anything and alternative. That's just the way he does it.
You started playing, I guess, in college then. you started playing for real. And when was do you know your first gig that you played out? Do you remember what that was? Other than obviously open mics, which is great training.
That's it. Just, I remember playing in Norwalk at open mics, Sunset Grill, and realizing the power of humor and a guitar. So the dream happened quickly. Oh, I can meet a girl with this acoustic guitar and a couple jokes. So that was easy. So that I got that out of the way. And then I think I was way too eager. I wanted to start a band immediately, but all I had was a 12-string. But I didn't know anything. So my friend Ed, I'm like, hey, I got 2 songs I wrote. I want to start a band. That lasted 1 practice, but Ed's doing great. He produces in Boston. But I think just filling in those Melvins. Yeah, that's it. And then I just graduated to the Zambonis. It was I started late, and the Zambonis happened quickly. And we got signed to a Sony offshoot coming back. Peter and Tarkin, the Philistines, were in England doing Peel sessions, which is a big deal. John Peel from BBC. And we wrote a couple songs there, came back and recorded them. And this record company put it out, Dash Records. And before you knew it, we were on the college charts. So it seemed pretty easy, but the niche really helped a lot. Then hopefully it keeps on helping. I'm speaking with the Zamboni company today at 4:00.
About what?
We have been a licensee of the Zamboni company since 1998, when they sent us a cease and desist in 1997. I don't know why, but things are going awry. So we'll see. Hopefully we don't their names to the motorized ice resurfacing machines.
Hopefully there's an acronym in there somewhere.
I think the non-hockeys would be a lot more freeing for me, but
okay.
We'll see.
Now, the other night you said you weren't going to play any cover songs and you played all originals. You did play one cover song though, which is the classic, the Gear Daddy song that you have to play. I would imagine it's got to be a part of your set, right? I Want to Drive the Zamboni.
It's funny. Sometimes I forget it's a cover. I'm sorry. But
that's okay. It makes sense that it would be an original part of your set.
The thing is, I have a cassette over this way in my office here. I used to go to New Haven Nighthawks games and then the Beast of New Haven, which were local teams, and they would play I Want to Drive the Zamboni. And this is pre-internet. So I walked up to the guy who played the music at New Haven Coliseum. I'm like, what's that song? And gives me a cassette and it says hockey song. So that's all it said. So now our first record's coming out and we record the hockey song. And we have no idea who wrote it because there's no information on it. It was a hidden track on the CD that it came out of.
Yep.
So we put it out and we copied it, unknown artist. I mean, there was no research. So it comes out. And unfortunately, the gentleman, sadly, who wasn't with us that night, the only original member, John was our accountant and genius bassist and drummer. But John listed us as writers because he filed our record with BMI. So he just figured, oh, we're writers for everything. Because that's what we wrote all our songs, but that one. So right. Years later, we finally were contacted and met Mr. Zepp. Unfortunately, through his lawyers. Yeah. And,
was he cool about it?
He was pretty cool, but I agree. Shouldn't have been that cool. He freaking said we wrote a song, We had no idea. We were so dumb to this whole process. And this is, again, before the internet, so we didn't have management. We didn't know what we were doing. We just figured John seemed very smart, and he was good with a pen. Just fill out these BMI or ASCAP forms.
Right.
So we ended up paying him and we had to remove it from our original record. But, live, it's a great song. And unbeknownst to me, they play our version at every Rangers game. It's fine. He gets paid for it, so that's good for him.
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody wins.
Everybody wins, yeah. Tarkin mentioned it the other night. We played the 2002 All-Star game at the Staples Center. And there's the worst video of it from the cheapest seat, but Tarkin sings I Want to Drive the Zamboni on the Zamboni in front of 22,000 people. So we've done that song due justice.
Right. I'm sure you've given it more airplay and exposure than the Gear Daddies have.
Well, I don't know why he fought,
Yeah.
now he's into it,
Yeah.
it's come out and everything, but,
Good.
it's a great song.
It is a great song. But what impressed me is that it fit in seamlessly with the rest of your songs. And to the untrained ear, no one would know the difference. And it suits your band, but then your music stands shoulder to shoulder with it. Yeah, I really enjoyed that part of it.
You know what? I love country music. I love Hank Williams and all that stuff, Ernest Tubb, and we have a really good track called Hockey Heart, if you listen to it. Everything on the recording is pre-1956, and it sounds great.
I got a hockey heart, and it's breaking us up. She's such a fine woman, she ain't no Stanley Cup. I know she wants me home. The team is calling my name, so tonight she'll change the nappies at home alone again.
I've had a bunch of good country people say, "Oh, that track's the real deal." So we love music.
That comes across. So when you play out, do you have cover songs that you play at a regular gig, or do you really just go by feel of the night?
This band never played cover songs.
Okay.
Besides, I Want to Drive the Zamboni and maybe Gary Glitter's Rock and Roll.
Yep.
That was part of the deal. But my buddy Joe Farrell, he showed up in Black Rock, Connecticut with a restaurant called Walrus and Carpenter. And I would go there a lot. It's like a mile from my house. And I slowly got to know this guy, and he brought music in the little back room of this place and created a scene. Like, we had a scene in 1993 to 97 in Portchester at this place, The Beat. To create a scene is not easy.
No.
And a cool scene is even harder. And we started doing events in the back, just sort of themes. We did a Wes Anderson night, and you had a band, and the band setup would be as much as the room as the people that could watch the show. It's this tiny back room. And we did Wes Anderson, and then he contacted me. He's like, "I got an idea for a night called CBGB night." And he sent me some songs, and the songs were horrible. He had no idea, or it wasn't just him, it was someone else, but it was like Kool and the Gang. Nothing made sense. I said, "Joe, you can't do this. I'll be your curator. I'll curate it."
Right.
And he's like, "Okay." And I said, "Let me put the band together too." So anyway, we created CTGB night in the back of this place. And thank goodness, going back, the Zamboni's second record was called More Songs About Hockey, and then in parentheses, and Buildings and Food, which is a reference to a Talking Heads. And in 1998, we played a record store in Black Rock, Connecticut. And right in front of us are Chris and Tina with their kids. They were, stars to us. I had her on my wall with my New Wave poster, her Harry and the B-52s, the women of New Wave. That was my poster next to Keith Moon. And they were very complimentary and, standoffish, as they should be, because we're odd. And as the years go by, we got closer and closer. And then eventually, we're very tight friends. And move forward to all that. I start CTGB night at the back of this place. Egan, their son, is a great drummer. So I said, "Egan, you want to drum on a couple tracks?" He's like, "Yeah." And he's a great drummer. And so we did all Ramones and some television in the back of this little restaurant. And there were like 30 people, and it's Chris and Tina and 28 other people. And it was great. We killed it. It ripped. And we did it the next year, took a year off. And now we do it. We played to 600, sold out at the Warehouse last year. And it all started with Joe. But that opened up these covers, and then once in a while the Zambonis would play, instead of practicing, we'll play at Joe's place. We'll do some covers. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. It sure is fun to play other people's music. And now he closed Walrus and Carpenter, but he opened Walrus Alley in Westport, Connecticut. And it's a great restaurant, but there's an alleyway. And it has rejuvenated my love of playing music more than anything in the last 10 years. It's a beautiful little alleyway, and we just set up and we play for 3 hours, and whatever happens, happens. So, if the wind blows, we play Call Me the Breeze. I don't know what's going on. We have no plan. These just songs come out of wherever. Kink songs, like Steve, our guitarist, and Swifty can play anything by ear.
They are very talented.
And Jay too. Now Jay's the new guy on keys.
Yeah.
And Rich is the drummer for the Monkees for the past 15 years. So Rich can play anything too. Then it comes to me, but I don't need to play those songs. I could just sing them. Yeah. So it's a thrilling. We're going to do 3 more nights this summer. Same thing. We had a manager doing some stuff with us. He's like, you don't want to do those gigs anymore. That's making your band not all that it should be. I'm like, I got no choice. I have to. It's soul music,
Well, good. Look, having the joy about playing music is really, hopefully, what it's always about. And I'm sure that it can become drudgery when you have a contract and when you have a tour. It can be hard to get through every night, but hopefully the 2 or 3 hours you're playing are still joyous.
Oh yeah. It does get to be a bit rough when you're on tour playing the same set, or who you are. So it's fun to just let loose,
Mm-hmm. Do you have any fun stories or interesting stories about weird things that have happened at your gigs? Because you have a very different perspective than the rest of the audience that listens to this or hopefully watches this, in that we're watching the stage, you're watching us watch you.
Yeah, we have played, the Zambonis played a hockey wedding in Boston, where let me get this straight, the bride and the groom had separate hockey teams pre the wedding, and no lie, the priest was the ref. He skated too. It's Boston. So that was cool. We played that one, and I think that's a strange enough event. We've played other hockey weddings too. Being threatened by NHL players, that's always fun.
Tell me more about that.
2002, playing the Acoustic Cafe in Bridgeport, Connecticut. There's a goalie named Mike Vernon. He just went to the Hall of Fame, the Hockey Hall of Fame, played for the Red Wings. At the time, I was also the MC for the local AHL team, the Bridgeport Sound Tigers. Let's go Tigers. That was my job for 11 years. And that's good training for being a front man too,
Yeah.
And Zambonis are playing, and I was friendly with the Sound Tigers, a lot of the players back then. This is before the Islanders owned and ran the team much tighter. So it was a very loose party. And
more like the Charleston Chiefs.
Yes. I said, hey, guys, playing around the corner from the arena. You guys should come. Oh, yeah, we'll come. Well, some of the guys came and they knew the other team, so they invited the other team. But, jocks can be a bit tough sometimes. And maybe music isn't their thing, which is one of the negatives of having a hockey band. Like real hockey fans aren't the greatest Zamboni fans. You need to have some sort of music and hockey background to get the band for the most part. Most of the time, that is the situation. But Mike Vernon was sent down for the first time in his career to the St. John's Flames or something. I forget. They played the Sound Tigers that night. He shows up at Acoustic Cafe, sitting there with some French-Canadian guy named Henri, I think. And we finished the show. It's a great show. We're having fun. And I'm carrying this huge hockey bag out with we carry our pants and jerseys just like any hockey guy in this huge bag. And as I'm carrying it, I knock over a chair. It's a huge, tight little place, and huge bag. And one of them throws out a slur. Do you know how to carry a hockey bag? You blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey man, I'm just a hockey musician, just trying to, and then he's like, you suck. Your band sucks. And I got the big bag on my shoulder. And it just happens that the next week we fly out to the NHL All-Star game. So I said, well, I may suck, but there's 3 of us here and only one of us is going to the NHL All-Star game next week. All of a sudden he jarts up. I drop the bag in front of him. I fly out of the front door. Eric Goddard, who was a player for the Sound Tank, I sort of blocked him. He's like, run, Zamboni, run. So I ran out and almost got my ass kicked by a Hockey Hall of Famer and his buddy Henri.
That's great. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
glad you didn't. Better
Yeah,
as a story than as an actual event.
Oh, it's all about the story, as long as you don't get your ass kicked.
Right.
Although that's part of the story too.
Sure. That would have been a different story. What's the biggest crowd you've ever played to
22,000.
at the All-Star game?
Yeah. Now we've done a couple All-Star games, so those are big crowds.
Mhm.
But that one we actually held them. The I Want to Drive the Zamboni performance. And before that we did it was us, Jewel, and I can't remember the Five for Fighting. Oh, we were the 3 bands.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so, we played Hockey Monkey. That was a big song back then.
All the scientists are running around looking for the monkey, but he can't be found because he's down by the pond playing hockey with the kids. And all the mothers are running around looking for their children, but they can't be found because they're down by the pond playing hockey with the monkey. And it's 1, 2, 3, the kids love the monkey, and 4, 5, 6, the monkey's got a hockey stick, 7, 8, 9, having a good time,
And
Right.
another one on the ice before. And then second period, we did I Want to Drive from the actual Zamboni. So that's
Yeah.
a big crowd. And we
That's a
had
big
it.
crowd.
So while Tarkin was singing on the Zamboni, me, Peter, and Matt, who was there, our old drummer, we're in the bench with live mics, and I was getting the crowd singing "I Want to Drive the Zamboni" chorus. So eventually we got them. It's good. A lot of them knew the song already because
Sure.
it's just played at hockey games back then.
Yep.
But don't be fooled. The smaller or the medium crowd, when you latch on, it doesn't matter how big the place is. It's the same. It's all about connection,
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. So you have played all over, I imagine, the United States. Have you ever taken the band overseas?
Yeah. Yeah. We played during the NHL lockout. We were contacted by Latvia to play with the NHL, what they call them? I forget what they call it's the NHL All-Stars, but I forget what they called them. It was the NHL versus the world. I forget how it went because they weren't
Like
playing.
a touring team just to get out and play.
Yeah, Idomi, a bunch of guys. So we did shows. We only did shows in Latvia. They went from Germany. They didn't do Russia. They did a couple Eastern European places, but we did 5 shows in Latvia, and those were unbelievable.
Really well received.
Well, we got there. We walked in off the plane to a mall, and there were about 3,000 people in the mall because they've been promoting it on whatever radio and TV. And they had been promoting it very well. And there wasn't a lot going on at that time. So we hit the mall. It was great. Then we went right to the TV studios where their Latvian MTV was and played there, and then promoted just what I thought would be the right thing to do, is promote the next gig and then the gig after that. But as I'm saying these things, we're playing La Rock Club. The whole camera crews waving me off. And I would start, La Roque? They're like, oh, no. And it turns out some venues were Russian owned and some were Latvian owned. And La Rock Club turned out to be the Russian owned casino, ladies for sale, drugs, and a lot of caviar. And we went, that was on this tour that was set up by some of the people that represented the guys from the NHL. Mm-hmm. So we show up to this incredible, it looked like a David Lynch film. It was just all red velvet. The most beautiful women you've ever seen are on the bar. And we walk by and it's us and the guys from the NHL who are the toughest dudes there are. And I forget which one comes up to me. He's like, Zamboni, we got to get out of here. I said, oh yeah. There's a huge pig just carved with fish inside the pig's guts. He's like, we got to get out of here. I said, I know. We got it. So we go from playing this place, the Rock Club, which the stage was like 30 feet. It was like a pit, but we were up 30 feet. It made no sense. And it was just weird, but we ate some of the caviar. We did not do anything else bad. There was powdered substances. We left there, and our friend, I forget his name, Max. By the time we got out of there, it was 1:30 in the morning. And he said, we're going to go to John Lemon's. And I said, and I thought he said lemons. And it turns out we went to John Lemon's, Lemons, which is already the best thing of the night. And we went in the basement, and the Zambonis and some of the guys from the NHL danced. I don't dance, and I don't think they dance either. But we danced till 4:30 in the morning, and it was just the greatest. It was the greatest because we thought we were going to die, you know.
What kind of music were you dancing to?
That's the greatest thing. I just told my wife this story the other night. I've listened to music my whole life, so I'm going to say I know a lot about music. And at one point, the DJ put on Jimmy Smith's I Got My Mojo Working. And I never heard it before. I had no idea what it was. I like the blues. I like jump blues. I need more jump or swing blues. And this song came on, and it starts with the verse, and then all of a sudden, there's no more words. It's Jimmy Smith on the keys and Wes Montgomery bouncing off him on guitar. And if you go, I promise, if you go listen to this it's on YouTube or it's on Spotify. Jimmy Smith's I Got My Mojo Working. It's the best 7 minutes of your life. You'll never experience this unless you're in Chicago at some dingy bar with some guy in a Hammond organ. And I ran over to the DJ. I said, please, I'll give you $50 if you play it again. And I gave him $50 and he played it like 3 more times. So it was about 35 minutes of this one song. And we just kept on drinking and dancing to this. It was great.
That does sound great. Do you still have your first electric guitar? What was your first electric guitar you ever played?
No, I bought the one right behind you. I bought that mustard colored Telly. Well, actually, no, my first electric guitar, sadly, but I didn't play it. I air jammed to it. But my mom had my uncle's guitar. It was a Dan Electro, white, cool guitar. And what an idiot. In the 8th grade, me and some friends air jammed as the Who in a talent contest. Yeah. And what did I do with the freaking guitar at the end?
You smashed it.
Smashed it. Yeah, what an idiot. Not knowing. But after that, when I got to play music, my first guitar was a 12-string because I didn't know what I was doing. Besides a nylon string, which I still have, which I write most of my songs on, a classical Yamaha, just nylon string guitar. But it was a yellow Telecaster, the mustard Springsteen deal. And then
the butterscotch blonde. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was working in Bridgeport and some guy walked by with a case. I'm like, oh, what's in the case? Oh, it's a shitty old Fender, but I'm going to get a new guitar because I play with the church. I said, can I see it? and he opens it up. It's a 71 Tele Sunburst. And I gave him $300. He wanted $250. And I love that guitar. But like yourself and any other man who struggles with addiction, I've got way too many guitars.
Yeah, me too. The guitar you played pretty much for the whole show looked like a Paul Reed Smith, but it was modified, but it's not a Paul Reed Smith, is it?
No, I was just gonna, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I should tell that story. But the thing is, I've really honed in with the Levees. I use Gibson ES 335s.
Great,
Oh,
beautiful, semi-hollow.
My partner Adam and I both use my ES 335s. That's our thing. Zambonis, I use that Tele, and I used the Gibson for a while, and then I recently, 10 years ago, purchased an Epiphone 1965 Coronet guitar, which is just the most beautiful, tiny little, beautiful, great guitar. And it's a working class guitar. It's great. But my idea always was to buy an SG because the bottom looks like a whale.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll take that SG and carve it and ruin it, but make it a true Hartford Whalers guitar. But I chickened out and I bought an Ibanez at the pawn shop for $40. So I used that guitar instead and worked 2 years on that guitar. Even the headstock is in the shape of a whale tail.
Mm-hmm.
And once I was into it, fans of the band contacted me. So the guts are serious stuff. This guy in North Carolina put all the wiring in. It's got a lot of cool stuff and great pickups, P90s, and you got some options at the pullouts. But the thing is, like a gig like that, I have to use that guitar because people are like, oh my God, look at that guitar. And, it's got hockey rocks on the back of it. But it's an easy guitar to play. And I used to sucker Steve, the guy on my right. Can you use that Whaler guitar so I could use the guitar I want to? But I don't want to mess up his solo. And he solos too well. So
yeah, he really can play. But have you gotten a handle on it now? Do you feel comfortable enough with it?
Yeah, but my carpal tunnel really, the neck is horrible. It's like wide, and I love the Tele neck. That's small.
Yeah.
In my mind, I should probably sell it and then buy an SG and do it again.
Do what you wanted to do.
Yeah, but it took so long to get this thing where it's at. It's a lot of painting and carving, and I don't carve much, I don't know anyone that does really. So,
and for our listeners who may not know what we're talking about, your guitar has a full Hartford Whalers logo, the W and the whale's tail coming up right across the whole body. It's a white guitar with the green and blue logo. It's gorgeous. And
I'll
clearly
send you a photo.
handed. Yeah, if you would, that'd be great. Do you have a memory of your first concert that you attended?
Yeah. Yep. And definitely. My parents brought my whole family, my two brothers. We went to Nassau Coliseum to see the Osmond Family. And they brought out little Jimmy in a bathtub. He sang Rubber Ducky.
Oh,
was it.
So do you remember what year that was?
I'm going to guess 72 or 73.
Okay, earlier 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was the Spinners.
Oh, fantastic.
At Oakdale. And it was a revolving stage. I love the Spinners. I didn't realize how good they were until in the last 10 years. Like, brilliant songs.
And great singers.
Yeah, great singers. And then ELP.
All right.
I knew that would get you excited.
Oh, I like the Spinners too, but I've never seen ELP. They had come and gone by the time I was attending concerts. You're just a wee bit older than me, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, ELP. The keyboards shot fire. Keith Emerson shot fire.
As they have to, as you would expect. Where did you see that?
New Haven Coliseum.
Great.
Yeah. And then luckily things changed from there, and not much. ELO, Kansas, all that stuff.
You saw it all.
I don't
Did
know if I
you
saw it all, but
yeah. Did you consider the Coliseum to be like your home arena that you went to see concerts at? If a
yeah,
band was playing there, you were going?
yep, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it became Hartford. And then luckily I was old enough to go to some clubs and
Yeah.
actually, I was a big REM fan and in very early, my brother was a DJ at WJMF at Bryant University. And he started promoting and booking at this great club called the Living Room in Rhode Island.
Mhm.
I could send you photos, but so the bands would come, REM or whoever it would be. And my mom would sometimes cook dinner for the bands. So there's great photos of me with Michael Stipe with a fork in my mouth, which is a very, well, I'll go famous because the Zambonis have played with the Baseball Project, which is a REM offshoot.
Yep.
Oh, the
Peter Buck, right? Is the
Buck,
driver of that?
Mike Mills. Yeah,
I
they're
like him.
definitely big baseball fans. But
Yeah.
luckily, ends up Scott McGoy, who was the fifth guy in REM, who was also in one of my favorite bands ever called the Young Fresh Fellows.
Mhm.
And at this backstage, my mom made dinner for the bands. It was Let's Active, who were REM's producer, Mitch Easter, and REM. I'm sitting next to Michael Stipe, and he says to my mother, does this have meat? Does the sauce have meat? She goes, no. A Jewish mother. No. She walks away, and he's trying it again. And I go, I don't know if it has meat. And he goes, does it have meat? She goes, a little.
That is a perfect Jewish mother response.
Got a little meat. Just eat it. So
Did he? He didn't.
but he put it right down.
That's great.
And there's a photo from that moment, which is I've got my sleeveless sweatshirt on, white, and I think my perm was fading out at the moment,
Yeah. How old were you then about?
17, I think, 82, 83.
So early in REM's career, they were definitely
Yeah.
eating anywhere they could get free food or get a meal.
No, it was backstage at the club.
Oh,
They were-
I see. And your mom
was-
just made the backstage spread.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Did you ever run into Michael Stipe again and remind him of that?
Not him, no, but I've played a lot with Michael and
Peter.
Peter.
Yeah.
But you know what? Those guys changed a lot for me because when I'd be backstage, I'd talk to Peter Buck, like, what band should I listen to? What are you listening to? And he was great. I love Robin Hitchcock. I don't know if you know Robin Hitchcock, but
Yeah.
right early on, he's like, oh, you got to listen to Robin Hitchcock and Hoodoo Gurus from Australia.
I love Hoodoo Gurus. Like Wow Wipeout is one of my all-time favorite, top 20 favorite songs.
Their first record, I ended up going to Australia and hanging out with those guys. And my brother went to Australia and ended up living there for 17 years. And it was unbelievable. We went to the beach with Dave Faulkner and he's in a full jean suit. He said, I never go to the beach, but I'll go with you guys, He lives in Australia. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. Amazing songcraft, those are perfect songs. And
Yeah.
oh yeah, I love that band. I'm gonna after this interview, I'll put that first record on.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That record for me opened me up not just to the Hoodoo Gurus, but to like new wave music. Cause I was kind of poo-pooing new wave music. I was into Bruce and the Stones and the Who and AC/DC and more hard rock things.
Yeah.
And I heard that record and I'm like, oh, it's all rock and roll, I
Oh,
get it. And then I heard the Cult and I'm like, oh wow, it's alternative rock can be pretty hard rock. This is great.
All those bands loved, obscure American bands. Like that's all they and then I met those guys and they're like, oh, you got to listen to Sonics. And I'm like, oh,
The
geez.
Sonics, yeah, they're good.
Yeah. The brand new Zambonis tune called Unforced Penalties is just a tribute to the Sonics. Even I made a video that's just sort of an old monster movie kind of video, but I just love the Sonics. That first record, they made a new record 35 years later. It came out 4 years ago, or maybe longer than that. But it's amazing. It's a great record. And then unfortunately, couple of the guys died right after that. But
Yeah.
the first Sonics record is the way things should be recorded. It's wild. It just all happened by mistake, and everything's totally drenched out. It's saturated in noise, and it sounds
Mhm.
perfect.
It sounds great. Yeah. Now, when you see concerts, I assume you still go to concerts when you
Yeah.
can. When you see concerts, do you ever crib anything that the front man does or the front woman does that you then use in your shows? Have you been able to adopt anything from the other people's performances?
I think very early on, I was definitely inspired by Jonathan Richman, this guy, Ben Vaughn, who I remember seeing a lot in the 80s. And he was funny and really dry. And Dan Hicks also. It's the most hilarious guys, but they made it seem like they weren't trying. And that's something that, I'm the same person on stage that I am off. And there's something to that I take pride in. Things I say on stage sometimes upset some people. I'm trying to be funny. There's no filter. So I'm a big Norm Macdonald fan. He's another one that's definitely inspired me, that it's great to bomb. It's awesome to bomb. I love it. And if you're bombing, just wait it out. Like the other night, it was my idea to just send the monkey out instead of the band. We get inducted in the Hall of Fame, and I said, Monkey, I want you to go out there 10 to 20 seconds. And when you feel it's really bad, just say help on the mic. And that's what he did.
That's why he said help. I had no idea why he said help. That's funny.
Yeah, I said, feel free to milk it. And he's like way too long. I said, yeah, whatever you want. You're wearing a tie and a suit jacket. Do whatever you want. Guy in a monkey suit. So later in life, no, I'm pretty comfortable with me, and I know what I do.
Yeah, you do it well. I mean, it comes across authentically, and that's really the easiest way to connect with an audience, is to be authentic when you're on stage, I found.
My dear friend Ryan from Guster, same deal. Ryan is Ryan. And luckily that band deserves exactly what they're getting, and they're playing the biggest crowds. They just sold out Red Rocks again. And he's a big influence on me. We're partners in life and stories. He's got a series called That's a Great or Amazing Stories. And very happily, my story is number one in that series, my Bob Dylan story. Another series coming out, and I think I'm story number one with my Big Audio Dynamite story.
I'll listen to it on Ryan's.
On YouTube. Dave Zamboni Dylan story. If you Google that, you'll get it.
So listening to us talk for the last hour, a listener might think, hey, you're a professional musician, but you have a job. Do you look at what you do musically as a hobby, as a second job? How do you look at your music career?
It is my career. It's gotten to a point where the Levees, last year, playing a Tiny Desk concert. We have a PBS special coming out on December 14th. So, the imposter syndrome is a really tricky thing. This is the first year and a half where I felt like, I think I'm real. I think it's real. So I'm 58. I turned 58 yesterday, and literally it's been a year of realizing it's a very tricky thing, because I do still have, I run a store, and there's a lot of work involved with that, but it's a career where I can do all these other things. And so I don't know if hobby, I see it no different as if you play tennis, you play golf. That's what it is. It's just, I'm so passionate for what I do with music. I guess it's a hobby because I love it, but it has its advantages because there's, it's a bit popular and it hits. I just got contacted from Vienna today. Love the new song. Sweden, love the new song. So it's a good hobby, and people enjoy my hobby. So that's cool.
I think you have made it. I mean, I don't know what making it looks like, but it looks like what you're doing is that. So
Made,
I hope that's how you feel about it.
made it is playing that show the other night or any show. Anyone loving what you do is success to me.
Yeah.
I played a tiny desk. It's no different. You just want people to connect with it, you know?
Mhm.
So if
Oh,
it,
yeah. I played in bars all over Rockland, Westchester counties, and, getting 30 people to dance for 2 hours or boo when you say this is our last song because they want more
yeah,
is one of the greatest experiences of my life.
yeah, how much did you get paid for that? It doesn't matter. It doesn't
Not
matter,
at all.
you know? It would help. I mean, I want to put out this record. I just bought the Hartford Whaler organ, the actual organ
From the arena?
from the arena. It came to me in a weird, dreamy way. Some guy contacted me. It was sitting in a high school, Wethersfield High School, and someone said, "Oh, you should call Dave from the Zambonis." Contacted the website. We own it, and all my life, in 1982, Devo made a record called Devo Easy Listening. And it was just a cassette of elevator music of Devo songs that they made. So I've always wanted to make just organ versions of the Zamboni songs. And the only thing I really can think of what I need money for is to make this record. I'm gonna have different organists play on it, and it's gonna be the hits of the Zambonis played on the Hartford Whaler Hammond organ. And we got the organ, it's working, it's in our studio.
That's
So
wonderful.
so when I say you don't need money, it's not about the money. I can use like $11,000. That's all we need. We'll release it, pay the guys that play on it. Got a little documentary we started filming for it. I've never done a Kickstarter, but I'm going to do one for that project.
Before I let you go, do you have anything where you're performing next? Anything you want to promote? I'd love to let the people know where you're going to be. And I'd like to know where you're going to be so I can come see you again.
May 26th, we are playing with a great comedian, author. We're in his new book. He's also a songwriter. He did the theme to the John Oliver show, that song you hear at the John Oliver.
Mhm.
It's called Valley Lodge. But Zambonis and Dave Hill are playing at Bowery Electric on a Sunday matinee in New York City, May 26th. And then June 7th, we're playing with Les Zeppelin at the Paramount Theater out in Peekskill. And very excited for that show. We wrote a new song, just getting excited for that show. We played that song the other night called There Ain't No Ice. We tried to write a Led Zeppelin song, but
it sounded good. You just threw it out there and let's see what happens.
I'm not the most avid musician or whatever, but I went for a Led Zeppelin song and I landed on the Small Faces. So I'm fine with that. It's good.
Right. And you said that too. And I thought it was definitely right in the vein of the Small Faces, but you captured all kinds of things. You have reggae inflected songs, you have country songs, you have a Ramon song. So you really cover all kinds of musical flavors, and I enjoyed every bit of it.
Great, man. Great.
Well, thank you, Dave, very much for your time today.
Please follow us on Instagram or Facebook. It's so hard to get people to follow. We're just at the Zambonis.
Yep. And I will, when I promote this episode, I will make sure to note that as well. Thank you so much for your time today, though. Appreciate it.
Dressed up. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And that's it. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be back next Tuesday. And if you like what you heard today, as Dave just said, we'd appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, or follow to make sure you get notified about all of our new episodes. And please tell your friends. Additionally, we want to know what you think. Please leave us a comment and we'll try to respond to everyone. The Rock and Roll Podcast is a World Highway Media production. I'm your host, Alex Gadden. Until next time, I want to remind you that life is short, so buy those concert tickets.